D. Brown's Western novel Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee faced over 100 rejections. Michael Blake, inspired by the book, tried to adapt it into a film script but found no takers. Kevin Costner, a close friend and ally of Blake, shared his belief in the project. Because of this, he not only assumed the role of director, but also contributed $2 million from his own pocket towards the original $18 million budget. Dubbed Kevin's Gate in Hollywood, in reference to the infamous Heaven's Gate, the film encountered numerous filming challenges, seemingly validating initial concerns. But against all odds, Dances with Wolves emerged as the highest-grossing Western of all time. Keep watching to learn things you never noticed about this now iconic film. Accidents on set. Mike Kenny got a first-hand look into the injuries that actors sustained on the set of Dancing with Wolves. He auditioned for a role in the movie but was instead hired as a medic. He took care of Kevin Costner and remembers treating a cut after a violent wrestling scene. Costner was also thrown off his horse during the famous buffalo hunt scene. Cinematographer Dean Semler's daughter got injured while helping out on set. She was a horse wrangler, and her horse suddenly got scared and threw her off. She broke both of her wrists. The worst accident occurred on horseback. An extra was thrown off and left paralyzed. Difficulties filming. Getting Dances with Wolves written and greenlit was difficult enough. Figuring out how to film it was almost impossible. There were 30 locations throughout South Dakota and Wyoming. They were populated by 400 Native American extras with 36 teepees to live in. The crew also had to wrangle 3,500 buffalo, 300 horses, and 2 wolves. Even the weather was against them. They shot for 108 days from July to November. Temperatures ranged from 20 to 100 degrees. The buffalo hunt. The most difficult scene to film was perhaps the most famous, the buffalo hunt. That one scene took 8 days, 20 wranglers, 24 Native American drivers, 150 extras, a helicopter, and 10 pickup trucks with mounted cameras. They used South Dakota rancher Roy Hook's herd of 3,500, the largest privately owned herd in the world. They'd begin herding at 5 a.m. and pray that the buffalo were in position by 11. They only got one chance and about 5 to 8 minutes to get a shot of them stampeding per day. There was no stopping them once they got started. They also needed domesticated buffalo for close-up shots. Neil Young loaned them one named Mammoth. A South Dakota meat manufacturer let them use their mascot, Cody. They found a unique way to get him to do what they wanted. Oreos. His handler said you could pull one out from 100 yards away and he'd, quote, take off like a bullet straight for you. That made the scene where Smiles a Lot gets charged by a buffalo much easier to shoot. Not all the buffalo were real, though. Kevin's company, TIG Productions, spent $250,000 to create an animatronic one to use in the scene. They also used foam rubber animals in a later skinning scene. They looked real in the final film, and they looked so real during filming that a passerby called 911. Police officers came with guns drawn, but left when they understood the mix-up. Dancing with the Wolves. Buffalo can be dangerous, but they're nothing like the film's namesake. The crew used 2 wolves named Buck and Teddy to play Tusocks, the one that the main character befriends. They were trained and semi-domesticated, but temperamental and far from tame. One of the trainers got bit and chased, so Kevin stepped in to complete the take. He threw the wolf a bit of raw meat to keep from getting bit himself. The crew had to be patient and give up plenty of meat to get the right shot. The cast would even howl to get them to join in. They did their own stunts, but didn't ride bareback. Kevin did approximately 95% of his own stunts. He was always ready to get back up when one went awry. He even got on his stunt double's horse when he was thrown off of his own during the buffalo hunt scene. There were a few historical liberties taken in the name of safety. Most Sioux rode bareback, but the actors were understandably afraid to do the same. The producers agreed to let them use saddles as long as it wasn't noticeable. Blankets covered them up in the film, completing the illusion. Fort Sedgwick. Nature also required the crew to create another illusion. The pond at Fort Sedgwick kept evaporating because South Dakota was in the middle of a drought. Trucks of water had to come in to fill it back up every day while the scenes were being filmed there. There's also no explanation in the film as to why the fort fell into a state of disrepair or what happened to the garrison there. A deleted scene fills that gap in the story. It shows the area had been derailed by repeated Native American attacks. They weren't able to fend them off after their horses were stolen, and they didn't get any reinforcements or supplies from Fort Hays. Their only choice was to abandon Fort Sedgwick. An out-of-sequence scene. One major mistake in the film comes at the end. There's an issue with the final scene. Kevin's wearing pants and a shirt. If you look around at everyone else, they have warm coats on. Temperatures differed so much during filming that both shots must have been filmed on different days. This was one of the only scenes that wasn't edited together properly. The other is the opening Civil War scene. The Lakota dialogue isn't perfect. Most Westerns have Native American actors speak their lines in English, but Dancing with Wolves went the extra mile. Over a quarter of the script was translated into the Sioux Lakota dialect. Few of the actors could speak or translate it, so they had to hire a dialect coach. Doris Leader Charge from Sintigleska University signed on. She admits it was the first time she'd ever seen a script, but translated it for them anyway. She also came on set to help the actors and got a speaking role as Pretty Shield. Her teaching was admirable, but there's one important thing left out. The Lakota dialogue has gendered speech that makes words have different meanings for men and women. Most viewers wouldn't pick up on it, but Lakota speakers found unintentional humor in hearing male warriors speak like women. Kevin is an honorary Sioux. The dialogue of Dancing with Wolves wasn't perfect, but its depiction of the Sioux characters was more accurate than many other movies of its time. It portrayed them as human beings living and working together instead of relying on stereotypes. It also provided many Native Americans with jobs. 150 Sioux from the Rosebud Reservation alone were hired as extras. The Sioux Nation decided to adopt Kevin as an honorary member of the tribe. He met with its leaders and was honored with a ceremony where a sacred eagle feather was tied in his hair. Kevin couldn't have been more honored. He'd always felt a connection with them and said that when he used to play Cowboys and Indians as a boy, he, quote, always wanted to be the Indian. He lost a bit of that goodwill years later when he tried to buy land sacred to the tribe on South Dakota's Black Hills and built a resort there, but he abandoned the plan in 2013. When a director knows who he wants. Kevin had a very specific vision for the movie. That included the cast. The character Stands with a Fist was based on a real person. Cynthia Ann Parker was a 9-year-old who was captured by the Comanche in 1836. She married a tribe member before being recaptured by white soldiers. Her character ended up being Kevin's love interest, but unlike in many other films, he didn't want her to be too young. He wasn't interested in the first choice, Mary McDonnell, who was only 37. He said he was looking for, quote, a woman with lines in her face. But she got the role anyway due to her talent. She was able to handle not only her Lakota dialogue, but the nuances of her character too. Now it's time to hear from you. What was most surprising to hear about? Let us know in the comments section below.